Again.
Hi.
Um, Good afternoon. I'm just waiting for some people to trickle into the room. Allow people just another couple of minutes to trickle in. I am Keisha Sutton James. I serve as Deputy Borough President of Manhattan, and I'm very excited to be here with all of you on behalf of Borough President Levine today. I'm just going to give folks another couple of minutes to join us, or maybe another minute to join us, and then we'll get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a nice group. Good afternoon, Ulysses. I saw somebody sent a message, so I'm saying hello, and I got a heart back. Lovely. All right, I think I will get started, and folks can join in as they are available. And also, I will say from the top, and also because this is important information, for disclosures purposes, but also because this is important information that we want to share with community. We are recording this session to be able to put it up on our website later on to be a constant resource for entrepreneurs that might need this resource. So with that having been said, hello, everyone. I am Keisha Sutton James. I am Deputy Manhattan Borough President. I'm thrilled to be here on behalf of Borough President Mark Levine to do this incredible session. Really, first of all, highlighting some of the work that we've been doing in the Borough President's office to better serve entrepreneurs in Manhattan, but also to announce additional resources that are available. So I will say at the top, I frankly I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. I'm married to an entrepreneur. Small businesses are the cultural and economic backbone of our neighborhoods. I know this very personally, and from my own lived experiences. But we also know this from the government perspective, that small businesses provide essential services, local jobs, and a deep sense of community. They make up 98% of all businesses in New York City, and frankly employ half of the private sector workforce. So it's not just a statistic that small businesses are. They are driving force of New York's economy and also our culture. It makes Manhattan work. These businesses are also, I know from my daughter getting this experience, from my having gotten this experience, but it's also the first place where a young person has their first job. My daughter served as a hostess as her first job. It's also a great place for migrants and immigrants to launch their dream, their American dream, and where families build something that lasts for a generation or two or three. And that I can attest to as well, because our small business turned into a really big business. And so this is a really important part of our economy and our lives in New York City. And so it's because of that the Borough President's office has been very proud to invest in this space, and very intentional about trying to bring more resources. And through that was birthed, literally as one of the very first things that happened, that Borough President Mark Levine did when we came into office, which was to partner with the Hebrew Free Loan Society on this particular loan. And it started really coming out of COVID to at the beginning of our administration to help small businesses recover from COVID-19. And some of them had more high interest loans that they were trying to shift to free or low interest, in this case, no interest. But we wanted to create a lifeline for entrepreneurs that maybe wouldn't be able to qualify for traditional financing. And this was an amazing opportunity to do that. We've continued to program in order to help additional small businesses. I want to say the first small business that we were able to help was Harlem Cycle. I happen to be a Harlemite, so I always lift that up whenever I'm speaking to Harlem audiences as well. But a local, I'm not a cyclist, but there's a lot of people, I have a lot of friends who are, and love Harlem Cycle. And it's, in our community, we're super, proud to have them here. And I think each of you can relate to knowing a small business in your community, you're being one, but also knowing other small businesses that are kind of, that are essential to your community. The program offers $60,000 interest-free loans, and it's already done $2 million of loans. And here's the big news: there's $2 million that is newly available. So we continue to try to promote the program. These loans can be used for whatever business owners need, whether it's to pay rent or payroll. Lord knows, having to choose between family expenses and payroll is something that's very real for many entrepreneurs, needing to buy equipment or needing help with marketing, whatever the need may be. It's a very flexible loan. So it offers the, entrepreneurs an opportunity to have an interest-free and very flexible loan without the burden of having, to be worried about the interest. It's just a straightforward support to help, businesses grow and recover and stabilize and become more of what they intended to be. So I also want to make sure to highlight that Hebrew Free Loan Society is a non-sectarian lender. You do not have to be affiliated with Judaism to participate in the loan. Sometimes it needs to be said, and I don't want anyone to think that it's not for them. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that. And in fact, one of the loan recipients, when we launched the program in 2022, was able to keep her 12 employees on its payroll, thanks to this loan. So this is really a terrific resource, and I want to give specific, particular. I want to thank Hebrew Free Loan Society as a whole, but in particular, we have with us Shlomo Haft, who has been a great partner for us in the Manhattan Borough President's Office. He is the Director of Small Business Lending for Hebrew Free Loan Society, and he is here to walk you through all the bits and pieces, all the intricacies of this loan, and then to answer questions afterwards. So thank you so much to Shlomo for being here. For folks in the audience, we have a series of questions. It may actually cover all of your questions after Shlomo goes, but if you do have questions, please drop them in the chat. And with that, Shlomo, thank you so much to you and all your colleagues. Take it from here. It's all yours.
Thank you, Keisha. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I just want to reiterate a few things. The Hebrew Free Loan Society is non-sectarian. As Keisha said, you do not need to be Jewish to get a loan from us. All of our loans are interest-free, and there are no application fees. So there are no fees, no interest ever. Whatever you borrow, that's the amount you need to repay. We have been around since 1892. The Hebrew Free Loan Society was started on the Lower East Side, so we have Manhattan roots. Our office now is in Midtown, so we've always been in Manhattan. And together with the Manhattan Borough President's Office, we've been able to help a lot of Manhattan-based businesses. I have a short PowerPoint presentation. I hope that will answer all of your questions. And I'm going to go through it. Some of it's repetitive, but in a way that's good because I do this every day, but most of you out here are hearing these facts for the first time. So sometimes repetition is good so that there'll be clarity at the end of the presentation. So the Hebrew Free Loan Society doesn't only make small business loans, even though we are focusing on that today. If you know of anyone that needs loans for any other purposes, you can go to our website, hfls.org. You'll see we have many other loan programs. Since 1892, we've lent over $450 million to over 900,000 New Yorkers. We lend to low and moderate income individuals. So we're going to go through that later, what that means. So basically, we're looking to lend to lower income people. And again, we do not charge interest or fees. This is just a quick review of all of our loan programs. I'm sure you're not going to be able to um, remember all of them, but again, this is all on our website, hfls.org. We have circled our small business program, and those two people pictured there opened a very successful cafe in Upper Manhattan called Zipsteria. They're cousins from the Republic of Georgia, and they always had a dream of opening a cafe. They did, and it's really great. It's a cafe during the day and a wine bar at night. I highly recommend it if you live in Upper Manhattan. They're on Amsterdam and 143rd Street. Overall, last year in 24, we lent 29.6 million. Of that, about 4.9 million was small business. And even though the Hebrew Freelance Society has been around since 1892, and we originally started making small business loans back then, for some reason it stopped over the years, and in 2005 we picked it up again. And since 2005, we've made over 1,000 small business loans, totaling over $33 million. Our repayment rate is very high, and we'll get into why that is, but it's actually like 99.7%. So we do get paid back most of the time. And we have a very high survival rate. Most of the businesses who borrow from us are still operating. And that's because we're kind of picky about who we lend to. We're not looking to lend to a business that's failing. We're looking to lend to a startup that we feel has potential, or a business that's has potential to expand and needs money to expand. I'll get into that a little later. This is one of our borrowers, and she standing in front of her gift store and grocery. And again, last year we lent 4.9 million to 125 small businesses. This year, our fiscal year ends June 30th, and we're projecting to make 135 loans totaling about 5.5 million. So every year, our goal is to keep increasing the amount we're lending. Again, a little repetitious, but HFLS is non-sectarian, meaning we lend to all religions, races. We do not discriminate against anyone. The only criteria, you need to live in New York City, Long Island, or Westchester, and you have to be low or moderate income. And we're going to get into the income guidelines in the next slide. There's no minimum credit score to apply for a loan. Basically, what we look for is a viable business plan, a business that we feel makes sense, and good guarantors, and we'll get into that later. And we look for industry experience. So if you're starting a business from scratch, we're going to be looking and asking you about your prior experience in that industry. So, for instance, a woman wanted to open a hair salon. She was a recent immigrant from Ukraine. She owned a salon in Ukraine, so we felt comfortable with her business plan. And we made a loan to her, and she's very successful now in Midtown. She has a very successful hair salon. She employs 11 people. When she started, it was just her. So that's a side benefit of our loans, not only enabling people to make their dreams come true and support themselves and their families, but also employ other people. So here are the household guidelines. If you look on our website, the numbers are a little lower. We recently increased them. So what this means is if you're a single person, household of one, you need to earn under, again, that's under $152,000. That by earning less than 152,000, we would consider you low or moderate income. These numbers are relatively high, so there's room there for most people do qualify, but again, we're not looking to lend to high income people. If you're married and you have two children, you have to earn under 217,000. That's a family household of four. again, if you earn more than 217,000 and you have a household of four, then we will not make a loan to you. Hope that's clear. Again, these numbers are on our website. They're a little lower on our website. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me if you feel you're borderline, and we can see what we can do for you. We lend to for-profit businesses which sell a product or a service. So we don't lend to nonprofits. We also do not lend for real estate. So if you were going to buy an apartment and you wanted to rent it out, that's not something that we lend for. And while the applicant needs to live in New York City, Long Island, or Westchester, we are a little bit flexible about where the business is located. So if you live in Washington Heights, but your business is in New Jersey, that's fine. Okay, so guarantors. So if you're the loan applicant and you're married, you and your spouse both need to sign as on the loan as applicant and co-applicant. If you're single, then it's just you. Third-party guarantors. So all of our loans require third-party guarantors, meaning someone not in your household, who doesn't work for the business, they're not an owner of the business. You have to have like a friend or family member who doesn't live with you, they're not a partner in the business, they don't work for the business. And if you want to loan up to $30,000, you need one guarantor. If you want to loan above 30,000 up to our maximum, which is 60,000, you need two guarantors. So who are these guarantors? The guarantors need to live in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, or Connecticut. They need to be employed and earn at least $60,000 a year, and they need to have good credit, at least a 700 credit score. Again, I said before, we don't care about the credit score of the loan applicant. And I mean, we look for, obviously we want to know a reason why the credit score may not be that high, but we're basically looking for a viable business backed up by one or two guarantors, depending on the loan amount. In addition to, as I said, a loan applicant, if they're married, their spouse has to sign as a co-applicant. The same thing with a guarantor. If they're married, let's say your uncle wants to be your guarantor. He's married to your aunt. Both uncle and aunt have to sign as guarantors. And they would count as one guarantor. So a guarantor and their spouse together count as one guarantor. Guarantors obviously do not need to be married. So you could have two single people as your guarantors, and that would be two guarantors. Or you could have two married people, and then you'd have four people as your two guarantors. Hope that's not too complicated, but again, we'll go through questions later. So how do you know if you're ready for a small business loan from Hebrew Free Loan Society? First check box you have to check off is, do I live in the area that Hebrew Free Loan Society serves, which is Long Island, Westchester, and the 5 boroughs of New York City. Second question is, do I meet the income requirements? Am I low or moderate income? Am I starting a new business or am I expanding an existing business? If I'm expanding a business, then we're going to look at the financials of the existing business. If it's a complete startup, then we're going to want to know about your prior industry experience. You're opening a cafe. Did you work in a cafe? Did you manage a cafe? Obviously, the more industry experience you have, the better. All businesses that we lend to need to be operating legally. So whatever licenses are required by New York City or Long Island or Westchester or wherever the business is, or New Jersey, has to have the necessary licenses. And again, as I said before, we do not lend to purchase or renovate real estate. Now, if you own a store or you're operating from a storefront, let's say you're opening a cafe and you want some money to renovate the storefront, that's fine. You're renovating real estate, but the business itself, real estate is not the essence of the business. It's not the main source of income. You're selling coffee, you're selling food. We will allow some of the loan proceeds to be used for renovating a storefront. But again, we don't lend where the real estate is the exclusive income for the business. There's a picture of Tamika from Home Cycle, as Keisha mentioned. We made a loan to her just as we were starting this partnership in February of 22 to open a second location in Harlem. And she's been doing very well. Again, this is a little repetitive, but how do you know you're a good loan applicant? You meet our geographic and income requirements. You're starting a business and you have prior industry experience, or you're expanding a business and you can't yet afford credit from a bank or other lending institution. So let me just expound on this. If you're in business for 20 years, you have excellent credit, your business is showing profit on your tax returns the last few years, you probably would qualify for a bank loan at a reasonable rate. And then we would not want to lend to you because we want to save our resources for people who basically their only option other than us is using a high interest credit card or a high interest online loan. If you cannot get affordable credit from a bank or other lending institution, we would consider making a loan to you. But if you seem to be a candidate that could get an affordable loan from a bank, then we would require you to get a denial letter from your bank saying that they denied your loan request and why before we would consider a loan to you. If you want to launch or expand a business, that we're looking to lend to people who have a business that's viable, that's likely to succeed. We're not looking to make a loan where we're just going to create debt for the borrower for a business that we feel is unlikely to succeed. So while we do have a very high repayment rate, sometimes people have to end up paying us from a job that they get after they close their business, or the guarantors need to pay. And we're not looking to create a situation where that happens. So that's why we try to pick as carefully as we can. Obviously, we're not 100% right all the time, but we try to make loans to businesses that we feel are most likely to succeed. For more information, as I said before, you can go to our website, hfls.org. You could email me at biz@hfls.org. You can call me at 212-692-9023, or you can always reach out to the Manhattan Borough President's Office if you have any questions, and they can direct you to us. So that's the end of the PowerPoint. And if you have some questions, happy to take them.
I know we have a few that we've generated that I wanted to just, kind of make sure we that cover some of the bases. And we also have we have a few that are in the Q&A. So again, if you have questions, drop them in the Q&A. We're going to get them answered. So first, can I ask, how long does the application process take from start to finish?
Okay, great question. So Hebrew Free Loan Society has a loan committee made up mostly of board members. They meet once a month. So depending on when in the cycle of their meetings you apply, you would be presented, within like 4 to 5 weeks. In other words, the next meeting is June 16th. So somebody who applied today, we would probably get them into that meeting. So it would be like a 2-week process. But if someone applied June 15th, they probably would have to wait till the July meeting. So I would say it's anywhere from 2 to 5 weeks, depending on when in the cycle of meetings someone applies.
Thanks, that's super helpful. I think I know the answer to this, but what if my credit score isn't great? Can I still get a loan?
So yeah, I mean, we don't look that much at loan applicants' credit score. We do look at the amount of debt. So let's say you have a lot of debt. that probably wouldn't bode well for getting a loan. If you're earning $30,000, $40,000 a year and you have $150,000 worth of credit card debt, that's going to be hard to swallow, because like, how are you ever going to pay that back, and how are you going to pay us back, even if your business is successful? But it's just because your score is low because, let's say, you were out of work, or there's a reason. You were between jobs, you were ill, you had an explanation for why your credit score is low, but yet now you have a viable business and you have guarantors, so we're probably going to ignore the low score.
And what about if this is actually from the chat, if an individual, I'm going to assume, has gone through a bankruptcy, is that an automatic disqualification, or is it, after, if it's been 7 years?
No, if there's a reason, an explanation, like sometimes we see people were ill, they couldn't work for a few years, and um, that's the reason they filed bankruptcy. Then we would look aside. We wouldn't really focus on that. Again, we're looking to help what we feel are viable businesses, people who have a good business idea, or a business now that's successful and just needs a boost. So that's where we want to come in. We want to help businesses that are likely to survive and thrive, and that's not an automatic no if you file bankruptcy.
So I'm jumping between the questions in the Q&A and the questions that we had prepared, and I wanted to ask, I think this is a really great one. What about we talked about business location in terms of that being somewhat flexible as long as the individual lives within the 5 boroughs, Westchester and Long Island. But the business location can be flexible. What about an e-commerce business, business that doesn't have a brick and mortar location? Thank you, White Lion, for that question.
We lend to a lot of Amazon businesses and eBay businesses and people who sell on Walmart.com. You can have a home-based business as long as you reside in the areas like you mentioned that we serve. Then it can be in cyberspace. The business can be selling on the internet. That's fine.
Awesome. I would imagine that a good chunk of your loan base or of your clients, if you will, are non-brick and mortar, just because of the expenses that are associated with having brick and mortar businesses.
Yeah. We make loans to many types of businesses. But I would say right now, probably about 10% of our loans are to online businesses.
Got it. I think I know the answer to this, but this is from SD. Can a lab startup with chemical, it says lab startup with chemical candidates, can early stage firms apply should they have a co-founder?
So not really sure what kind of business that is, but I would say that if it's a type of out of the box business, like it's not just a cafe or a yoga studio or sports bar or a tailor, or your Main Street type of businesses, if it doesn't have revenues yet, it would probably be something like, if we're not familiar with that type of business, it's really unique, we probably wouldn't lend to it until we saw some revenues, that we understood the demand for its services. Sometimes people come to us and they're working on a website, or they're working on a software that they want to sell, and our money is going to go towards developing that idea. We're not going to lend to that type of concept until we know there's proven demand and proven sales. So I'm not sure if this chemical business fits into what category, but if you're not sure, it doesn't cost anything to apply. You can feel free to apply, and we can look at your loan request before you even get guarantors and give you some feedback about whether we think it's something that we would consider.
Just to piggyback on this question, which I think you kind of answered just now, that we have a question from Ulysses asking if you need a business plan and tax returns from the business. Perhaps you can answer that question specifically. I think you did kind of just answer it, but
So, if you're in business, if you're existing business, we want to see the last 2 years tax return, business tax returns. If you're in business less than a year, we would want to see the current profit and loss statement, something that gives us an idea about the financials of the business. You do not need a business plan. I will meet with you via Zoom for probably about an hour to review your loan application and ask a lot of questions. And I basically create a business plan to present to our loan committee. Um, you know, an informal, like 3-page document that gives the loan committee an idea about what's behind the business, the concept, and the financials of the business.
And I am going to throw up a question who's from someone whose last name is Sutton, no relation. My business is in Brooklyn, but I live in New Jersey. Do I not qualify for the loan?
If you live in New Jersey, you do not qualify.
And
If you reach out to me, I can suggest organizations. There is a Hebrew free loan in New Jersey.
oh, great.
As in there is one in Philadelphia. There's all over the US. Not every state has one, not every city has one, but there are various organizations that do offer interest-free loans throughout the country. So if you're not sure, if you don't live in our area, feel free to reach out to me and try to direct you.
Amazing. I think this is a really great question because as we all know, it's not just our local businesses that create so many resources, opportunities, and support for our local communities, but also the not-for-profit. So this question's from Leon, who says, the House of Good Deeds is an amazing community resource, and we need about $40,000 to pay off some low-interest EIDL loans. How can nonprofits participate? You've mentioned individuals, and I see for-profit entities, but I don't see anything for the charities.
Yeah, we don't lend to charities. We would direct that person to apply for a personal loan from us. And let me just say, now that we brought that up, sometimes a business does not yet qualify for a small business loan from us. And a lot of times, I recommend that people start with a $7,500 personal loan from Hebrew Free Loan Society and get the business up and running, and then have a few months of sales, and then they can come back. And a lot of times that happens. They borrow $7,500, they start the business, and then they come back and they qualify for a larger loan from us. The only thing is you can't have 2 loans at one time from us. So if you're approved, let's say for a $30,000 loan, after you got the personal loan, you'd have to repay the personal loan in full before you get the business loan. But it's a good way to get started. We never say no to somebody completely. We don't shut the door. If they don't qualify, if they meet our income and residency requirements, and they just it's not the type of business we feel is ready yet for a small business loan, we'll suggest that they apply for a personal loan from us, and that's also interest-free, up to $7,500, and then take it from there. You're on the mute.
Apologize. I was taking a sip of my very icy and noisy water, so I muted myself. So good question from Sarah. If there's a team of founders, can any one of them be the loan applicant?
All of them need to be the loan applicant. So we want all owners. We don't want one owner to be on the hook for a small business loan when there are numerous, various owners. So if there are 3 or 4 owners, all of them would have to be sign as borrowers and co-borrowers on the loan, and their spouses too, if they're married.
That's a really good question. Thank you, Sarah, for that question. Let's see, this is from Joel. What terms or time frame do you guys use? How much time do borrowers have to pay back the loan? Great question. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. So we give people a 3 month grace period after they receive loan funds from us. So loan payments start 3 months after you get the loan, and then the loan term is decided on a case by case basis by the loan committee, depending on what they feel the business can afford to repay. We're not charging interest, so we want to get the money back as soon as feasible, but we don't want to squeeze the business or the owner either. So I would say typically it's after the 3 month grace period, it's usually a 24-month term, but it could be shorter or up to 36 months, depending on the financials of the business, the type of business, if it's a seasonal business, or but I would say that majority of our borrowers get 24 months after the 3 month period.
Thank you. It was a very helpful question for me as well. Thanks, Joel. There are a couple of questions about the residency requirement. One person was asking, someone said residency requirement is New York City, it's New York, Westchester, and Long Island. And then Ulysses asked about Orange County, which it sounds like
Yeah,
is
so that Orange County is outside of our area. It's New York City, Long Island, Westchester. Like a lot of times I get people from Rockland County who will call and say, I live in New York, but it's not New York, it's New York City. To make it a little bit more confusing, guarantors can be from Orange County. Guarantors can be from anywhere in New York, anywhere in New Jersey, anywhere in Connecticut. It's the loan applicant that we limit to New York City, Long Island, and Westchester. And that's only because in 1892, in the bylaws of the Hebrew Free Loan Society, those are the areas they wanted to cover. And we haven't changed it since 1892
Oh,
because
wow.
there are more than enough people. Just to give you an idea, since 2005, we've made 1,000 small business loans. There are over 180,000 small businesses in New York City alone. So we haven't even scratched the surface just within our area. So that's why we feel like there's no need to expand it.
Got it. And going back to the list that our office prepared, what if I have already paid off a previous loan? Am I eligible?
So the rule we have is 3 strikes and you're out. You can get 3 loans, small business loans. I should say this, you can apply 3 times. We won't lend to a small business a fourth time. But if the business is doing well and it just needs more money to expand, most of the times they will, if they approve the first loan, they would approve a second and third.
That's great. And how are the funds dispersed once they are approved?
So part of the loan process is we would ask you for a void check and a bank statement from your bank account. And we wire the funds directly into that account after you're approved.
Great. And are there limits on how the funds can be used?
So it has to be used for a business purpose. Sometimes people come to us, I have a business, but I want to use it to like buy a house. Like that's not good. So now that said, we're not following up after you get the loan, but we ask enough questions that we can usually figure out. And the committee is also a little sensitive to like, someone says I need $60,000 for marketing for my business. Like we're not going to lend those kind of funds to just advertise, or I need to hire an employee, so they'll give you 3 months salary. They're not going to give like a year's salary. So it has to be for a business purpose.
Got it. Thank you. And do recipients have to pay taxes on the loan?
So this isn't income. You do not pay taxes. It's a loan that you're repaying, so there's no tax consequences.
Great. And how does the repayment, you've already touched upon this a bit, but in terms of the repayment process, what happens if someone hits a financial rough patch?
So we'll work with borrowers if we create financial projections, and the loan committee bases the loan repayment term on those financial projections. Sometimes businesses do not meet those projections, and we'll work with the borrower to lower the monthly payment. It's when they stop paying totally and they're just not communicating with us, that's at that point we would reach out to the guarantors and let them know that the borrower's been unresponsive. We're very flexible. We're not a bank. We're a nonprofit organization. We're looking to help people, not hurt them. As long as it's within reason, the amount that they can pay, I would say roughly, um, we basically would say to someone, we would divide the loan amount that they owe by 60 months and would say like that's the minimum you need to pay. So if you borrowed $30,000 and your monthly payments were $1,000, so that you were paying the loan back in like 2.5 years, and you hit a rough patch, so we would say, okay, we can lower it to $500. $500 would pay the loan back over 5 years. So that's the amount that we would feel is acceptable. Hopefully that works. And if not, we'll work out a plan that's workable for all parties.
That's what we call friendly money or flexible money. It's, people who can actually work with you as opposed to going after you. So thank you for that. I've got another one from the Q&A. Can the loan applicant be on it says O1 visa, or maybe they living and operating a business. It says maybe they mean J1 visa, living and operating a business in Manhattan.
That's an excellent question. And these are great questions because like I have to start putting this stuff in my PowerPoint. We don't look at the status of the loan applicant. We just require that the guarantors be either U.S. citizens or have green cards. So there's a lot of immigrants now recently that they're just, especially from Ukraine, they came and they have no status yet. But they have a business idea and they want to open a business, and we'll lend to them. But we want to know that it's backed up by someone who has ties to the United States, so that if for whatever reason they need to leave the country, they don't really have a tie here, but at least we have the guarantors who have are more tied to the U.S.
Got it. And speaking of the guarantor, what's expected of a guarantor, and can a spouse qualify as guarantor?
So a spouse would be a co-applicant, not a guarantor. They can't be a guarantor. We send basically we send guarantors a very short form to fill out that gives us permission to pull their credit. And then we need either a copy of the green card or a copy of the U.S. passport to show the citizenship or their status here in America. And that's basically all we need. We don't need we require them to earn $60,000 a year, but it's on the honor system. So they basically just have to declare on the form that their income is at least $60,000. And that's basically it. They just have to fill out that form and provide either their green card or U.S. passport. And we do a hard pull on the credit of the loan applicants, which means it's like applying for a credit card. It lowers your score by a few points. For the guarantors, we do a soft inquiry, so that does not lower their score.
Got it. And what if someone doesn't have a guarantor? Are there any alternatives?
Unfortunately, no. That's kind of a firm requirement. We don't we're not flexible on that.
Thank you. And let me just check and see if there's more. No, there's no more questions in the Q&A. I only have a couple more prepared questions. So if anybody has any more questions they want to ask, please get them in there quickly because we're nearing the end of the program. But I just thought I would ask you if there are examples of types of businesses. You've given a couple, but if you can give more examples of types of businesses that have benefited so people can get their juices flowing. And honestly, I'd love to know if there's a story that really stands out to you where our Hebrew Free Loan Society loan really changed someone's life, really, became kind of a determinant in someone's life. That'd be helpful.
So there's so many different types of business, but I wrote down like a list of our recent Manhattan business, and they range anywhere from a hot dog wagon to a halal uh, food cart to a juice bar, a kids gym, tailor, sports bar and restaurant, a retail variety store, kennel for dogs and cats, a day spa, a yoga studio, a cafe, a retail chocolate store, um, hair salon. One of my favorite stories is there's a sports bar and restaurant on 100 and I think it's 145th Street in Amsterdam. It's near City College. It's called Winnie Said, and
Yeah,
it's like a log cabin. And what was amazing to me, there are very established people in the bar and restaurant business who own a few sports bars and restaurants in Manhattan. And every time they open a new one, they take two of their employees who they feel have potential, and they make them co-owners. And in this, when he said, so they have two African American young man and young woman who are now like 25% owners of the business, and they're basically running it. And these people who shall remain anonymous. Every time they open a new business, they take people who have really proved themselves as excellent employees, and they make them co-owners. And I just felt I was like blown away by that, and it's got great reviews, and the place is really running well, and I highly
I've heard
recommend.
of that.
Well, you'll
I've been hearing
check it
about it.
out.
Yeah, I've been hearing about it, but I didn't know this story. So now I have even more reason to go. And whoever this person is needs to be New Yorker of the Week and needs to get all kinds of commendations from the Manhattan Borough president and the city and so forth. I really love that. And I would love to meet said person. I love it. I love it. So thank you so much for your partnership. For we in the Borough President's Office are really excited to have the partnership with the Free Hebrew Free Loan Society. Thank you, Shlomo, for your time, energy, effort here today, but in general, in terms of making sure that so many small businesses are supported. Because we are the Manhattan Borough President's Office, we want to flood this office. We want to flood the Hebrew Free Loan Society with Manhattan-based businesses. We don't want anybody to beat us out. None of those other boroughs, and not Westchester or Long Island. We want all the Manhattan businesses to get all these applications in there and to get a lot of that $2 million that is newly available to businesses. So I encourage everyone to get their applications in and keep us aware of success stories. With that, I just want to say thank you so much.
So my pleasure.
Happy afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Shlomo.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.